Welcome to this special late night edition of Real Deal Podcast on this 14th of January 2021. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald-Quinn. Will not be with you uh, for long. Won't be with you long. Keep this rather brief, but still a lot to talk about. And we all know what I'm going to talk about here. If you're looking on my screen, the Brooklyn Nets have a new All Star in one, of course, James Harden, who became the latest superstar player to force his way out of a situation that, in many respects, he created. Um, and this was a trade that this is a trade that was supposed to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen as far as him going to Brooklyn. I thought that Philly would be the leader in the clubhouse, but Harden's behavior got to a point to where it even I think it probably drove up the value of it probably drove up what Houston was willing to was asking for from Philadelphia, and Philadelphia just wasn't willing to give was not willing to give them those multiple draft picks plus Ben Simmons. Plus, you still got Bradley Beal out there, so Philly, did not have to make the move for Harden, even though I thought they should be in the mix, and and certainly we're in the mix, but they were not willing to part ways with one Ben Simmons. But getting to the Brooklyn part is, and you can see on my screen the compensation. Um, Houston getting 3 unprotected picks from Brooklyn, the 4 pick swaps, Cleveland's first round pick for this year. In all, Houston's going to end up with 8 first round picks plus Victor Oladipo. Pacers, of course, get Karis LeVert and a Houston second round pick. Cleveland, you don't see on the screen because it was too much information. Get Jared Allen, and also, of course, it's a role player that I can't even think of right now. Torian Prince. Torian Prince. So, 14 trade. And listen, I think this trade had to be made if you're Brooklyn. Um, no, I mean, I think both teams had to make it. Houston wanted to get Harden out there as soon as possible, considering his behavior and just how toxic he had just turned had turned that culture game in and game out. And then again, if you're not going to put up 30 a game, then like we really got to get you out there. I mean, Harden was the definition of being checked out in these last. You look at his numbers for his last 4 or 5 games, he's barely cracking. He wasn't even cracking 20 points a game. So he clearly was checked out and clearly had quit on the team in order to force this deal. But Brooklyn absolutely had to make this move because, and we'll get to it. This Kyrie Irving situation has taken on a absolute life of its own. They cannot trust Kyrie Irving moving forward. I thought you couldn't even come into the season completely trusting Kyrie Irving physically because I mentioned this even before the season started. How Kyrie Irving has been injury prone, um, and that once James Harden became available, that they had to jump on, had to make that move. If not for just Kyrie Irving insurance. I mean, period. Like, there's just no 2 ways about it. Like, I know what I'm getting out of Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant's healthy, Kevin Durant's one of the top 2 players in the world. Remember, he was the best player in the world before he got injured, and he's getting close to that level again. He's very close. He's been phenomenal this year. But Kyrie Irving, you knew something was going to happen. You knew something was going to happen. It was just a matter of what. Um, and we'll get to the Kyrie Irving situation a little bit later. But this move had to be made by Brooklyn. They can listen. You have James Harden and you have Kevin Durant. You can figure out the rest. Like, you can go out there on the scrap meet, on the buyout market, get a rim protector, get some depth, get some more shooters, get some more people to come off the bench. That's not hard to replace. That's not like they have the two most important pieces in Kevin Durant and James Harden. You have James Harden in a situation where he's not the guy. You have James Harden in a situation where where he will not have the pressure of being the guy, of carrying a team, or of being the lead, the number one. We know James Harden in the playoffs is not a number one. He's a great number one in the regular season, but in the playoffs, that has not translated towards his game is not translated in the playoffs. It doesn't need to in the playoffs, playing alongside Kevin Durant. James Harden is a overqualified number two. And I don't expect. The question to me is what does Brooklyn do with Kyrie Irving? What transpires with that? I don't think James Harden is going to be a problem at all with Brooklyn. I think James Harden is at the point where he is. This is it. I mean, this is it as far as he's out of excuses. He's out of you've heard James Harden on occasions in his last, you've heard James Harden say we're not good enough multiple times, multiple occasions throughout the course of his career in the last 2 to 3 years. He said in 2019 when they lost to Golden State in 6 games, where we're not good enough. Next thing you know, Chris Paul is on his way to Oklahoma City. He says it this year, or a couple of days ago in the that 1 minute press conference. We're not good enough, and he ends up in Brooklyn a day later. Now you're on a team with Kevin Durant, so now there's no excuses. You're on a team with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to a lesser extent, but you're playing with Kevin Durant in the Eastern Conference. So that we're not good enough shit is not going to fly anymore. So I expect James Harden will. I fully expect James Harden will return to being, Mr. Regular Season, and will play great basketball. I fully expect that. I don't. The fit between Harden and Durant, I think will be fine. I don't think it will be seamless, but I think because they haven't played together, in a decade, basically. I mean, 2012, they haven't played together in almost in 9 years since 2012 on the same team since 2012 finals. I'm not including like the Olympics and nothing like that. I'm talking about in the NBA. But I think they'll be fine. The question is, what transpires? What do you do with this Kyrie Irving situation? And it's funny how both Kyrie Irving and James Harden, these situations are very similar because these situations were manifested by organizations empowering guys who are star players, but are guys who are not leaders. These guys you don't want these guys, Harden or Kyrie Irving, leading your franchise, especially Kyrie Irving. I mean, at least James Harden got his team to the Western Conference Finals and was losing to Golden State. Kyrie Irving, as a number one, got the Celtics to the second round and got them embarrassed. As they were embarrassed by the Milwaukee Bucks. We know Kyrie Irving is not a leader in the least bit. And at least James Harden, was durable. Is durable. So again, I'm not concerned about James Harden's, what transpired with his run with at the end of his run with Houston. I think he clearly was trying to, was doing everything possible to get out of that situation. A situation again that he created, that the organization also created by, giving him the keys, basically, the keys to the car. And this trade and these situations with Irving and Harden are really a referendum on organizations. And if you're an organization, you have to find that happy medium of pleasing your star player without giving him carte blanche to a point to where where it can just destroy your organization, destroy your franchise. It's a very fine line, very thin line because listen, everybody, there's one LeBron. Okay, there's one LeBron. Everybody is not built to, have all the power, make this call, make that call as far as coaching, as far as personnel. And even with the Lakers, those rosters were put together by Rob Pelinka. Yeah, LeBron signed off on them, but most of those moves, to the credit, you got to give Rob Pelinka credit. You got to give even Magic credit for drafting some of those guys that allowed them to get Anthony Davis. But what's happening with these players is they are players, superstar players are exposing weak organizations. Period. So, if your organization, yeah, you need star players to not only win games, but to sell tickets. But at the same time, you can't get that. You cannot, you have to say, it's like a child. You have to, at at a certain point, say no. You have to say no. We're not going to trade Chris Paul. And then that's where Houston messed up. That was the biggest mistake Houston made in that run when they had James Harden. I don't blame them for Dwight Howard. Um, the Chris Paul, trading Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook that move, it was just, they signed their own death knell as an organization when that happened. That was it. Their run, when that move was made, their run was over. That was it. Their window was closed. They took Golden State, a dominant Golden State team, a loaded, all-time great Golden State team, back-to-back years to 7-6 games, and came within a whisker of beating them in a series in 2018. Came within a Chris Paul injury from beating Golden State. They were right there. That was a championship caliber team. And in 2019, they were not that was a very closely contested series as well. It was a tough. The series was tied at 2. Golden State won 2 close games in games 5 and 6. It was certainly disappointing in game 6, but they were right there. Now, and then you trade all this draft capital from Russell Westbrook, and Chris Paul. All Chris Paul does is goes on to be second team All NBA and take a team that frankly had no business making the playoffs in Oklahoma City to within a game 7 uh, playoffs in game 7 in the first round against Houston last year. And you see what Chris Paul is doing in Phoenix this year. So Chris Paul clearly still has some gas left in the tank. And look at Russell Westbrook right now. He is shot. Doesn't look shot. He's shot. His days as a marquee player are over. So you cannot, as an organization, you cannot allow a player to make moves that are going to sink your organization to appease the player and win. Because what happens is if those moves don't work out, which they won't, because players aren't general managers, the player's going to leave regardless. They're going to put. Did you see James Harden say, "Hey, nah, my bad. Y'all shouldn't. It was my fault about the Chris. We shouldn't have traded Chris. I'm just going to hang in there until my contract's up." No, not going to do that shit. You're going to be like, "No, get me the fuck up out of here. I want to play for a contender. I want to leave. I want out of here ASAP." And again, people can complain about players moving all they want. They can be player empowerment. The players drive this league. Period. The players drive. There's no league without superstar players, without the superstar players in particular. They drive the league. It's only 5 positions on the court at the same time. If you have one of those guys, that guy is going to command is going to command that type of power. Period. And you, as an organization, if you have one of those guys, one of those top 10 guys, you got to build it. You have to build a championship contender around that guy. And it's not hard to, if you have a top 10, top 5, top 10 player, to build a team around those players to contend for a championship. It's really not. It's not that difficult. And again, Houston, things that ran their course in Houston. He was there for 8 years. They were not going anywhere beyond this year. Even if he goes out there, plays hard, maybe they would make the playoffs. Maybe they could win around. That situation had it had ran its course. Same thing with Anthony Davis with New Orleans. That situation had ran its course. They had 7 years to build around a generational talent, and the best team they could build around him could only go to the second round. And it wasn't because, and it's not like, unlike Harden, it's not like Anthony Davis wasn't killing people in the playoffs, because he was. He was basically 30-10 for his career in the playoffs before he joined the Lakers. In that short sample size, those couple of playoff appearances that he made with New Orleans. So he wasn't the problem. Now, again, I think Harden will be fine on Brooklyn. I really do. Listen, looking at, Houston, gets 8 first-round picks, but none of those draft picks matter if you don't have an organization that knows what they're doing. Like in 2024, 2026, 2025, 2027, those should be high picks, and those should be lottery picks, and those should be probably top 5 picks. The Cleveland first-round pick for this year, will probably be a lottery pick. Oladipo's a very good player, not a star player, but good player, and you could probably flip him at some point. Maybe next year. But I'd much rather have the star. I much would rather have Ben Simmons back. Even if that meant asking for less picks, like I would have took Ben Simmons in just 1 first-round pick instead of the alleged, 3 first-round picks they were asking for. To be honest with you, Ben Simmons, another role player on Philadelphia, and a first-round pick, and that would have been good. Because the key is Ben Simmons. You're getting an all-star, all-NBA caliber player who's 24 years old with a good contract back, a guy that you can build your team around, a guy who's unselfish, defends, wants to win. So you're shifting your whole culture by getting a cornerstone guy back. So I always will take the star player over the draft picks, because this is not the NFL. NBA draft picks, depending on where teams draft at, depending on who's coming out of college, a lot can happen. And especially, think about this. If guys are allowed to come out of, high school earlier, if guys are allowed to come out of college, go directly from high school to the NBA, the pool of talent coming out of college is going to lessen in the next couple of years, if that happens. Oh, I should say when that happens, because it's only a matter of time before that happens. As far as the Kyrie Irving situation, Kyrie Irving just flat out just doesn't give a fuck. I'm not gonna sit up here and put this on mental health. I'm not gonna sit up here and put this on, I don't know, the stress of playing basketball. Kyrie Irving doesn't give a fuck. I'm doing this because I can. And the Brooklyn Nets really have nobody to blame but themselves. They empowered Kyrie Irving with basically having him think that he's 1A to Kevin Durant's 1, to where he, had a say in picking the coach, to where, he's coming out even though he only played in a handful of games last year, played about 20 games last year, criticizing teammates, criticizing the level of talent that they had, the quality of talent that they had on the team. Now, we need more pieces. So this is what you get. This is what you get when you empower somebody who, frankly, doesn't need to be empowered. And empower somebody who's not a leader. Period. Kyrie Irving is not a leader of men. He's not somebody. Every situation Kyrie Irving has left has gotten better, has improved. But now, Brooklyn is in a position of, they do have some leverage, because now if I'm Brooklyn, I'm saying, okay, Kyrie, you've been out for a week, allowed you to clear your thoughts. What are you going to do? Do we really have to start getting lawyers involved in it? Does it get to a point to where we just have to fine you for every game you miss next, after the NBA, of course, has done this investigation with this party that he went to with maskless? He's probably going to miss more games. But listen, if I'm Brooklyn, obviously you got to wait to see what the NBA does. But I'm sitting them down saying, what do you want to do? And we need an answer like ASAP. Like, we're not going to wait on the answer. We need an answer. And hopefully he gets back on the court and performs, and then around the All-Star break, you move him for some pieces and some depth. I do not envision this team with all three of those guys on the team in come playoff time. I really don't. I definitely don't think Kyrie Irving and James Harden can play together. I just don't think it's even possible for those two guys to play together. And again, even besides that, if I'm Brooklyn, Kyrie Irving cannot be on this team moving forward. You just can't. I can't trust you. Just can't trust him. And it's New York City. We don't. We got too many. We have a couple of young players on this team that have never been through a championship run. We need, we're trying to keep Kevin Durant for 20, because he can opt out in 2022. So to me, listen. It's not a coincidence. I'm telling you, James Harden was Kyrie Irving insurance. The Nets know this. Kevin Durant knows this. And the Nets know that you cannot waste Kevin Durant's prime years and hold his prime years in the balance of depending on Kyrie Irving. It's just not possible. But again, overall, if you look at these trades, look at these superstars that are being traded frequently, before you talk about them, before you call them out for being malcontents, selfish, look at the organization first. Look what the organization is doing or is not doing before you say that. Chances are the organization failed, not only the player, but failed the team as a whole through moves that were made or not made during the tenure of that player's career. Oklahoma City, you can go back to Oklahoma City with Durant. That wasn't trade. Durant leads, so look, y'all didn't check Russell Westbrook. You allowed Westbrook to do what he wanted. You never got us enough shooters. You know what? I've been here for 9 years. It's time to roll out. Time to roll out. If I gotta go to Golden State and collect a couple chips, so be it. And again, I feel, and by the way, I've heard this too well. Gotta feel bad for Kevin Durant. No, you don't. Kevin Durant knew what time it was when he joined up with Kyrie Irving, or he should have known what time it was when he joined up with Kyrie Irving. 100%. Like this, Kevin Durant, you leave Steph Curry for Kyrie Irving. Now, when you went from Westbrook to Curry, that was an upgrade. You go from Curry to Kyrie Irving, that's a downgrade. Because Steph Curry is everything that Kyrie Irving is not. He's a leader. He's accountable. For the most part, he's been durable. Doesn't care about how many points he scores. Doesn't care about who gets the credit. Doesn't care about none of that. Steph Curry just wants to win basketball games. Period. I do think Brooklyn is the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Like I said, I listen. They don't have enough rim protection, and they have nothing. They don't have anything for Anthony Davis in regards to the big picture. In terms of beating the Lakers, they would need some rim protection. They would definitely need some rim protection, and we'll see what happens with that. But they could definitely scare the hell out of the Lakers, with those two players. I mean, period. And again, I think that if you're Brooklyn, how you play this is you get Kyrie back into the mix. He goes out there, plays well, and you move him around the trade deadline. Period. Now you say so. Well, what about if they gel? Well, if they gel, then you might have something special. And even if they gel, the chemistry's there. You still need rim protection. But if they gel and the chemistry's there, that's a bonus. The pleasant that'd be like that's found money as far as I'm concerned. But I don't anticipate that. I don't anticipate that to happen. Think you will see. I do not think you will see Kyrie Irving on this team come playoff time. Just don't believe it. But the overall thought to me is when it comes to these organizations, they have to find a happy medium between empowering their star, keeping them happy, as well as doing what's best for their respective franchises. A couple of thoughts before I get up out of here. Urban Meyer, and I put Myers, it's actually just Meyer, is new head coach of Jacksonville. Of course, you know, he's taken over at a great time. They're going to have number one pick. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence. They have 11 draft picks from previous trades over the past couple of years. Jalen Ramsey being one of them included. They, you know, are in a division that is not, you look at that division is not overwhelming. It's pretty good, but it's not. Who knows what happens with Deshaun Watson with Houston. Indianapolis quarterback situation could be shaky with Philip Rivers. I mean, even if he comes back, he'll be 39 years old. And then I'm leaving out somebody. Tennessee, Tennessee's very good, but they're not a dominant team. So it is definitely a winnable division. If they that can that team could come out of nowhere and make the playoffs or possibly even win a division. So listen, Urban Meyer is a great coach, and that goes without saying. I think Urban Meyer is a coach who can translate his style to the pros. A number of pro coaches even go to Urban Meyer during the off season for to kind of pick his brain about offensive strategies and game plans, things of that nature. I just wonder, can Urban Meyer deal with the grind of the NFL? Urban Meyer has had health problems, especially at Florida, and He's a perfectionist. We know how he hates losing, but I think he understands that you're going to lose. Without question, he'll lose more games in his first year of his career than he lost at Florida and Ohio State combined. Well, maybe I think, yeah. He'll probably lose in his first 2 years, and let's say in 2 years, he lost in his whole career combined at those two places. But again, I think that he's the one guy out of college too who I would trust. Um, if you get 5 years out of admired, I think that's great. And if you get 5 years out of him, then that's a win. But they should be set up for success with all those draft picks, and again having the most important pick, and that's the number one pick, and getting Trevor Lawrence. Of course, you have Alabama just continuing, on their dynasty, continuing to extend this dynasty. A couple of years ago, Alabama got smacked by Clemson, and I think it was like 44-18. And then, I think last year they weren't even didn't even make the playoffs last year. And there were some, just whispers and wonderings about, was Nick Saban was the dynasty over? Would Alabama ever be the same? Things, just ridiculous stuff. And they just basically they just basically gave everybody the finger this year with that performance. They were a dominant team. They basically destroyed everybody with the exception of Florida. Um, that performance again against a very good Ohio State team, was spectacular to say the least. And this thing doesn't end until Nick Saban retires. Like I was texting somebody the other day, he might win 10 national championships. It will not end until Nick Saban's out of there, decides to step down. And it doesn't seem that that's going to happen anytime soon. So definitely congratulations to them. That's title number 7 for Saban. He breaks the tie with the legendary Bear Bryant. So yeah, everybody is getting the standard is so high. If Alabama goes 1 year without winning a championship, or two, let alone, God forbid, 2 years, then the program is just completely falling off the cliff. That is what people expect out of Alabama year in and year out, championship or bust. And I'll say this: I think they're the greatest sports dynasty since the '60 Celtics. To be honest with you, I really do. I think they're 6 championships in 12 years, with everybody chasing you in the toughest conference in the SEC year in and year out. It is remarkable, beyond remarkable, what they do year in and year out. It's going to wrap it up for this latest edition, this abbreviated edition of the Ril Dil Podcast. I will put this up, probably have this up on Friday morning. I will see you later. See you on my next podcast with the Wire Remix, episode 4. Alliances. Yeah, that'll be the next episode. So I will see you. See you then. Enjoy the playoffs. So long.